Hi, my name's I-Lan Hamilton. I'm a personal performance life coach and trainer. My particular passion and interest is working with young people and the adults who support young people. I work on a one-to-one basis and I therefore work in schools and with other youth organisations delivering life-changing programmes for young people and the adults who support them. Today, I'd just firstly like to say I would really like to thank Rachel Lee and the Youth Coaching Academy for giving me this opportunity to share with you at all and the opportunity to talk to you about some of the work that I do. So thank you. When given this opportunity, I was thinking to myself, what is it that I would like to share, as there are so many tools out there in the coaching world. So my first question to myself was, what are the key factors, the fundamental key factors that run through all the coaching work that I do, all the work that I do? And I realised it was basically about responsibility, and that really is personal responsibility, choice, perspective, so looking at different perspectives and being able to see and raise your awareness of that, and in conjunction with that, fact versus interpretation, so actually breaking down and distinguishing between what's the actual reality and fact of a situation, what are the facts, and what is maybe your interpretation of a situation. So those were the four things that came to my mind, and I decided I'd like to share a model called STARR with you, because the STARR model really does cover all those factors. It's a model that I actually discovered throughout my own training, so it's not something that I can say I actually created, but I love this because it is very adaptable. You can use it in group work. Well, I use it with quite large groups of young people in schools, but you can also use it when you're coaching on a one-to-one basis with a student. And again, it also is very adaptable because I believe you can adapt it to suit whatever age group that you're working with. So that's why I like STARR. And I also believe it's easy to remember. So firstly, I'm just going to take you through the steps of the STARR model. S stands for stop. So basically, whatever is happening, the first thing is stop. Stop what you're doing. The second thing is T. T stands for think. So again, stop and think. Those are the first two steps, and they will come quite quickly, but those are the first two steps. Then A, very importantly, stands for ask or assess. So ask yourself the question, what is really happening here? What is happening? Assess the situation. Ask yourself, what is my perspective of the situation? What might someone else's perspective be? So therefore, what is really happening? What is the reality? Then R, moving on from A, R stands for respond. Respond. So respond meaning, how can I now respond to this situation? How can I respond so that it will achieve a desired outcome? What can I do? And then the final one is R, which stands for reward. Reward is, well, what is the reward? Quite often the reward will be that you avoided a conflict or you avoided being unhappy in a situation. Generally that tends to be the reward, although you could reward yourself in times like this for actually achieving a desired outcome that works for everybody. So this is basically the STARR model. Now, as I said, it's very adaptable. You can work in groups. Now, in a group situation where I've worked in schools, what I've done with this model is developed and say maybe 2 or 3 different scenarios. So I've actually split the group up in smaller groups, so maybe a class in teams of maybe 4 or 5 people, and I've given them each a different type of scenario. And after going and introducing the STARR model to them, I've asked them to actually go through some questions. So by giving them the scenario of what happened, so for example, I came home from school and my little brother had taken apart this Lego model that I built up of a spaceship, and I was extremely upset. I reacted by pushing him and he started crying, and I was very angry, and then my mother came in and she sent me upstairs to think about it, and the result was that maybe I got to, I missed my favourite TV programme, and I was still unhappy, and my dinner was cold, so that might be a scenario, for example. So then I'll ask the children in the group to use STARR and think about 2 or 3 ways how they could respond to that situation differently using STARR. And then ask them to look at 2 or 3 ways how that might produce a different outcome that would actually be better for them, and how would it be better. So I've found that using STARR in group situation is fantastic, because number one, you are getting lots of ideas from different children and they're working as a team, but also I tend to use scenarios that they would probably come across depending on their age group as well. So it might be situations in the school playground. So this is very much about being able to manage your emotions and your behaviour, really, and being responsible for your behaviour and your actions. Now, as I said, I also use it working on a one-to-one basis, and when I work with a student, I might actually look at a particular incident that's happened for them, where they ask them to think about a situation where they reacted and what happened, and then ask them to use the STARR model to see how they could have responded differently to the situation, and therefore what the possible outcomes might have been. So again, with a one-to-one situation, it works very, very well. Again, the age groups, that's what I was going to say, yes, the age groups you can use. I've worked in primary schools using the STARR model, and what I found is, because of their age, I tend to use the symbol, as in the star, and the actual emotion, the feeling, as the point at which they would then think STARR. So we talk about when we react to situations, obviously we're not thinking about it. So in order for them to actually process and practice the STARR model, they need to understand at what point they need to introduce this. So with them, I talk about the feeling. So it might be frustration or anger. And at that point, I say to them, right, think STARR. The minute you start feeling this, start thinking STARR, and then you can actually stop and go through the process. So that tends to work very well with younger people, like primary school children. When I work with older people, or older young people like teenagers, then I'll start to maybe go a little bit deeper so that they can actually understand what actually happens prior to their reaction. So it will be about looking at the event, something happens, that triggers a thought, which then triggers an emotion or a feeling, and therefore you then act upon that emotion and feeling, which the action will then trigger. It might be an action or behaviour which will then will then produce an outcome, and sometimes not the one that you want. So we look a little bit deeper depending on the age of the young person and what their understanding would be of it. So that for me is the STARR model. I hope that's going to be helpful. Before I move on though, and before I close, I would also like to say the results. The results are great, because the results of the STARR model basically does cover the factors that I spoke about earlier. A raised awareness of, number one, yourself, how you actually feel, what's going on for you internally, but also a raised awareness about other people and different perspectives, different points of view. So STARR helps to bring that into a young person's consciousness. And again, it talks about personal responsibility, because it is about empowering that individual to actually take charge of the situation and therefore have a choice, because when you're in a reaction, you don't have a choice. At this point, you actually choose how to respond. So it's about giving that person the choice, the responsibility, the awareness, perspective, and basically a better outcome for everybody. So that's it really, and I hope that's been helpful. I would also like to just say how you can contact me. I've given you some details here I hope you can see. But I'm on Facebook as well, so please feel free to contact me at any time, send me a message, and I will respond to you too. So thank you very much, and goodbye.